complete and utter defenestration of the organisation. And Nursit Mehtab joins us, former Scotland Yard Superintendent, because the Met is now described as toxic. There are calls for it to be completely broken up, calls for it to completely disbanded in some ways, in the same way that the RUC was disbanded in Northern Ireland and recreated in the form of the Police Service of Northern Ireland, the PSNI. It's reached epic proportions, Nursit. Very good morning to you. Not quite sure any of us are surprised by this official finding, but it is very damning, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. There's no surprise. It's disappointing and it's damning. It's catastrophic and such a disaster for the Met. You know, they're letting down victims, trust and confidence. 50% of Londoners do not have trust and confidence. 40% of women, 42% rather, women don't have trust and confidence. So yes, we are at a watershed moment again. We had that 30 years ago or 25 years ago with Macpherson. Here we are again. So what's going to change? Because let's not forget that Casey review will be raw, it'll be hard hitting, but it is a review and they can take the recommendations or leave them. I strongly believe that Mark Rowley would accept all the recommendations, but it's about what can he really do now at this moment. And we don't know what's going to be in the review, and we've heard a lot about it. It's the most anticipated, but we still don't know the details. And one of the things that she may be saying is that it needs to be broken up and restructured.
And if she does say that, how easy would that be to do, and how would it re-emerge? Because the Metropolitan Police has been there for forever, as far as anybody can remember. I don't know how you would reconstruct it and how you would actually split it up. I mean, what could they do?
Well, this conversation isn't new. It's always been around to say, you know, restructure it. So there's things that the Metropolitan Police do that are extremely well, and that's their specialisms. But it is a big beast. They've got responsibility for the National Terrorism Command, Royalty and Specialist Protection. They do homicide very well in terms of dealing with homicide and organised crime. Now, those aspects of what they do can be hived off, and the Metropolitan Police can be more local, and they can focus on neighbourhood policing and focus on something, Mike, that has not been at the heart of policing for a long, long time, and that's community. Put the heart back in the community, invest more in neighbourhood policing, and just make it more local. So that's one of the ways that they can do it. But obviously everything has its pros and cons, and that will have to be looked at. But until Casey tells us what options there are, I think that we need to be open to all of them. But it's no longer, Mike, for me, about saying, let's give them another chance. The head chief of the National Police Chiefs Council, Martin Hewitt, this morning has said that in his 30 years of policing, he's never been so depressed and so ashamed. And that's the reality of policing today.
And that is a terrible, terrible shame, isn't it? Because one of the things that I think has really been an unfortunate side effect of all of these terrible cases of rogue officers like Wayne Couzens, you know, and Dave, Bastard Dave as he was known, is that, you know, people's confidence in the police has been lost overall. And there are many, many great police officers and great police organisations. It just seems to be that there are some who have been allowed to stay. One of the things that Suella Braverman apparently said yesterday is that she would like to see and she would like to give Sir Mark Rowley the ability to get rid of police officers who have misbehaved and have broken the law easier, because apparently it's not that easy to do. I mean, I remember when Rowley came in and he said, well, this week, like every other week, there'll be at least 3 police officers up in court themselves, charged with offences, some of which are quite serious and some of which involve violence either against women or against others. I mean, serious crimes, and they're still in the police force.
Yeah, and that's, you know, it is. Let's not forget that the Met is in special measures. And as much as Mark Rowley will try to do something, you've absolutely hit the nail on the head. He doesn't have that power. If he can't even sack the 150 that he wants to without... And then what power does he have to transform the rest of the police service? Now, the Met have what's called he has a turnaround plan in terms of transforming policing. The biggest transformation that policing needs, and I know we're focusing on the Met, but this is, for me, across the 43 forces is the culture. But unfortunately, that's number 5 on his list in his turnaround plan. And how do we deal with that culture? You're absolutely right, Mike, that there are thousands of hardworking officers, and we know that. But, you know, we have to focus on those that are there for a different reason, and they're attracted to policing because of the power of the uniform rather than public service. So how do we move it forward? What do we do? Because how many more years and how many more times are you and I going to be talking about these horrendous stories that are coming up? So now real conversations need to be had. But for me, I'm going to wait and see what the Casey review says on Tuesday. What are her options to reform the Met? And those have to be seriously looked at. I would go a bit further, Mike, and she may have said that in her review. We don't know. I would be asking for a royal commission now. This is the time for us to have a public, independent review where it has a statutory footing and it'll have wider powers than the Casey review.
And in terms of how quickly the police could actually move to restructure, I presume that we're talking a long way. We're talking years away, aren't we?
Yeah. I mean, that isn't going to happen overnight if you think about how big the Metropolitan Police Service is and how long it's going to take. So that isn't something that's going to happen overnight. It's going to be an option that they can explore moving forward. But at this moment, the biggest thing that the Met need to do is tackle its culture. And how do they actually tackle that culture to get rid of the many, many officers that are there that should not be there? Mark Rowley took over in September last year. Those officers are still there. I know it's 5 months, and he says he's going to be ruthless. Ruthless for me is to show the public, to win that trust and confidence, to say, I have got rid of those 150 officers that I know that shouldn't be in the job. That would, to me, would be some way to gaining that or winning that trust back.
Well, it's simple, isn't it? You walk in to their office and you go, you're fired. You've been guilty of gross misconduct. Cheerio. Do I get a pension? No. Do I get a payoff? No. Gross misconduct. You're out. That's what happens in the real world.
Yeah. But he doesn't have that power because policing is so complicated. You know, there's the National Police Chiefs Council. It has to be national standards. And at the moment, there are no national standards. So I wish it was as easy as that because we wouldn't be here talking about it. But it's not. And we are here talking about the reality of policing. The Casey review will look at case studies of real people. And this isn't a time for policing to be defensive, because if you look at the policing culture, the invisible canteen culture, it's out there, Mike. Just look at the social media where you've got police accounts, anonymous police accounts, and what they're saying. That, you know, they're doing Casey's work for them. And they actually, at the time where they should be reflecting on what's going on and seeing how they can make a difference and win that trust and confidence back, they are doing everything in their power to damage that trust and confidence for some of the things they're saying. And that actually is where, you know, we really need to have a deep dive into as well.
Yeah. 300 pages it's going to be, so it's going to take a lot of reading, it's going to take a lot of poring over. Is there anything that you can say in favour of the Metropolitan Police that you would like to see kind of just mentioned even in passing?
Well, I've said that they do things that are extremely do well, and that's specialism. Nobody can do specialism like the Metropolitan Police Service. And there are some really hardworking, good police officers that are out there. And, you know, Metropolitan Police Service has always had a good record, but over so many years, that's been damaged. So we need to come back and address that to win that trust and confidence back. And how do you win and trust and confidence back? You show concrete action. The Met can do it. They've got Mark Rowley ahead of it, but, you know, I just fear that maybe he's not got the powers he needs.
No. Good to talk to you. Nursit Mehtab, former Scotland Yard Superintendent, talking about the release tomorrow of the report which has been put together over the course of the last several months.